Welcome, welcome, welcome. And we are live. My sound is working and all's right with the technology world. So, thank you all for tuning in with me live. If you are watching live, pop in the comment section where you're watching from. And if you would like to add what grade levels you teach or support, because I do have coaches that actually are a part of the community. So thank you, thank you, thank you. For those of you all who are new to my community, my name is Michelle, aka the Ignited Teacher. And what I do on my live streams is I provide teachers with do I have some on my mouth? um, I provide teachers with evidence-based and research-based teaching tips that can be implemented in their classrooms as very early as the next day. So I try to make my tips very bite-sized, things that I know who are tips that I know that have been tried and true over the years. I have been teaching for 24 years. 17 of those years have been in mathematics, and I focus on closing gaps, providing very, very, very strong tier one instruction. That is your core instruction. And actually, from that core, focusing on closing the gaps with the math intervention. So, thank you for tuning in. And if you are ever unable to catch me live, no worries. You can always find my live streams on my YouTube channel. You can Google the Ignited Teacher. I do believe I am the only one that is on there. So if you're looking for those live streams or any of the events that I host, you can find them there. So I want to remind you all, like I said, if you're new, if you're returning part of the community, you can actually, let's see, go to, there it is. I don't know why it was slow popping up. My website, and these, I have resources on here. I have my blog. If you're interested in joining the Math Intervention Academy, which I'm actually in the process of revamping and all of that jazz. You can find that on my website at fuelgreatminds.com. There's my blog. I blog about a lot of different things, but really the framework that I use, math instruction, good project-based learning, classroom management, response to intervention, and technology integration. Any of those things that if you're interested, you can find those on my website at www.fuelgreatminds.com. So we're going to hop right on into our topic tonight. Our topic tonight is one that is a topic that a lot of teachers really struggle with, especially new teachers coming into the field of education. High stakes testing, standardized testing, end of the year testing, just testing, testing, testing. That's the name of the game in 2024 and has been for some time. I started teaching in 99, 2000, around that time, and high stakes testing was not a thing back then. But to around 2004, no, even before that, 2003. It might have been a year or two after I started teaching, because I can remember my son was in fifth grade and he had to take his science test. And that's when high stakes testing really was introduced into the educational setting. But because before then, I can remember it didn't have anything to do with teachers' evaluations. So I've seen it evolve over time into something that just steamrolls teachers, and also as school districts have shrinking budgets, as school districts provide less training and less support for teachers, teachers are left on their own without any support to help kids with high stakes testing. Anytime you have a measurement that is introduced and you're being measured by, it causes anxiety because you're talking about children, and children are very temperamental, as some adults are too. So we're talking about children anywhere from K through 12, and we're at kinder. What are they? 5, 6. Then you have first grade, 6 and 7, and third grade. You have 8, 9 year olds who are being, you're being measured by tests. A lot of our kids don't have, there's still technology divide, but there's a lot of things that can cause anxiety, especially if you're working in a community where there are underserved children. A lot of our underserved communities still do not have adequate access to internet. So no internet, no computers. So a lot of the things that you're going to do, you have to prep the kids at home. And now with this shift from paper-based testing, it has made it that much harder because children, contrary to what people believe, children are not technology savvy. They know how to work a cell phone, and that's pretty much it, especially if you're in an underserved community. They are not literate when it comes to computer programs, Microsoft Word, all of those things that a test, especially in this day and age where you have test items where children have to type in their answers as early as 8 and 9 year olds. A lot of parents don't even understand that their 8-year-old has to type their response. So you got 8-year olds learning how to type, which is ridiculous. But until something changes, this is what we have to attempt to get children and younger teachers and teachers that are new to the math side prepared to deal with this, because as much as unfair as it is, it's still our reality. So I wanted to show some findings as to why this is important. Why is it important to really, I'm not saying focus on test prep, but know that it is the elephant in the room and it's a huge one. So the RAND Corporation, which they deal with a lot of educational topics, and this is one of their articles, using student performance to evaluate teachers. Well, here is some of their key findings. They say a teacher evaluation system should incorporate multiple measures of teacher performance. Students' assessments used in these systems must support valid inferences about the teacher's effectiveness. For teachers of non-tested subjects or grades, evaluations may include supplemental student assessment or school or departmental level student performance. Estimates of student effectiveness become more stable as they incorporate additional years of assessments data and average over multiple years. New teacher evaluation systems should be monitored to minimize unintended consequences. Well, I find that real interesting because you have a lot of teachers that are new. As a matter of fact, we're in a greening of education. A lot of the experienced teachers, as well as our veteran teachers, are leaving the profession in droves since COVID. The trickle started before COVID, but it has gotten worse. So some of the research that's out there is outdated, as you can see. Unintended consequences. There are a lot of unintended consequences when it comes to using students' data, especially from a standardized test prep standpoint. So I wanted to share that article with you. It's by the Rand Corporation if you wanted to read it. So we're going to go ahead and jump in. I have 3 tips that I'm going to share with you about that addresses mistakes that teachers make when they're trying to get kids ready for standardized testing. The first mistake is jumping and not using their routine. There are teachers that choose, let me see, why am I? Teachers that do not use their routine. They'll take their kids off of their routine, and then you have kids just sitting there constantly doing packets, or now since testing is online, kids just constantly doing testing. That is one of the things that I've learned over the years, that you should not change your routine. Ever, ever, ever. Don't change your routine. So if you're self-contained, meaning you teach all subjects, go ahead and do the test prep with that within your routine. There should be things that should stay the same. What it does is it helps 2 things. It helps with anxiety with your students, and it also kills the monotony, because I promise you, if you're doing an effective cycle of test prep, you're going to beat the dead horse, revive that horse, and beat it again. So you're going to constantly be in this cycle of revising, changing things, but keep your routine, because it will help with the children, and it'll help you to not get burnt out so quickly, because you can, after 2 weeks of test prep, you're going to be done. Especially if you're new to this, you're going to be tired of that. So if you use Nearpod, if you used all these other platforms, continue to use that, but just increase the percentage of test prep in that. I would highly recommend that you all use a maintenance and a reteach skill. So what that looks like in a classroom is some students, and I have this disaggregating data part up here. If your population of students are not performing that in certain skills that are important, go ahead and create mini lessons with those programs that you have, that you routinely use, and address those. That's how you do that. You don't just take it away. Those maintenance skills, what you do is, those are skills that you just have the kids do independently. Warm-ups, you can have them do as independent practice. Just different ways that you incorporate anything in your classroom. Maintenance skills are skills that kids have, and I'm going to tell you from a teacher who has always taught in underserved communities, 60%, that's good. That's a maintenance skill. Please do not beat that dead horse and say that's a reteach skill. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you can hop over to my YouTube channel. I think when I did a challenge, I talked about maintenance and reteach skills. Definitely look at those. But I'm telling you, please don't make these expectations to where, oh, I want 90%. They have to be, no, because what will happen is, as the children practice, those maintenance skills will get stronger. But if you're at 60%, that's a maintenance skill. Anything under 60 and even 50, depending on if it's a skill that's needed, or as the kids say, no. If it's a skill that's something that, is not high, there's not a lot of test items, that's a skill you don't have to worry about, like financial literacy. And I hate to say this, it's a numbers game. Financial literacy does not have a lot of, test items. So you wouldn't beat that dead horse. However, fractions, algebraic, anything in that algebraic reasoning or number and operation, especially for 3 through 5, that's dead horse material, because I'm gonna tell you what's in there are going to be skills that the kids still struggle with. They're still struggling with place value. I know. So that's how you incorporate or create a cycle. You look at your data, make sure you're looking at the sub pops in your classroom, and make sure that you're creating mini lessons around that. And when I say mini, I mean mini, not a whole lesson, because you're not teaching it. If they didn't get it in the first 8 months of school, they're not going to get it 4 weeks before a test, or even 3 weeks. So don't even stress yourself out about that. At the end of the day, especially if you're in an area where you have kids that have already taken a test before, you're going to have two distinct different groups. You have your kids that you expect to pass right out, and then unfortunately you're going to have some kids that they need to grow, because change over time will close gaps, especially if there's an effective intervention program and the kids are not highly mobile. They are coming back to the same school year after year. Those gaps will eventually close. I've seen it happen over time. So don't stress yourself out. Keep your same routine. Take some of those points that I have given you. The next mistake that I see teachers making is they don't create a calendar. Now, your calendar is like your roadmap. Look at those overarching themes like algebraic reasoning, numbered operation, and those are the mini lessons that you should be creating. If you have a team of teachers, you all need to sit down and create a calendar. If you're working with another team member and he or she is teaching ELA, then you all need to be collaborating on your calendar and how you're going to get to cover all of the things with the breaks in between for your students. So you have to know where you're going, especially if school doesn't end in June. And the kids are antsy, which goes back to my tip about keeping your routine. Do not change your routine. Create a calendar that incorporates your own routine, and the kids are familiar with it. Nothing changes, because after testing, let me tell you, yeah, they're going to be tired, and they're going to think school is over. No, we took the test already. School is over. But it's not. So if you continue that same routine, all you have to do is switch back to the routine, and it's seamless. The kids, nothing will change. So that's mistake number 2. If a lot of teachers don't create calendars, they don't. And I'm going to be honest with you, please, with your reteach skills, don't do the cute little ideas, because I'm going to be honest with you, if you don't have kids that are performing way, way, way above grade level, the little cute and fun ideas, and I'm not saying they can't be fun, but use the same platforms. Don't do these room flips. And I know that's an unpopular opinion, but don't do the room flips and you have children who get overly excited. And then at the end of the year, you're in somebody's Facebook group saying, well, I thought my kids were going to pass. You have to focus on the meat of it. All those cute ideas are the icing. They make everything else look good. They do. They are not designed to get the kids and nourish them and get them over the edge. You focusing on what's important and what's on this calendar will get your kids with a little of that icing sprinkled in. Know your children. If they are not good test takers, I highly recommend that you not do any of those cute and things that don't move the needle, especially if you have kids that are bubble kids. Bubble kids are kids that constantly bounce. They bounce, bounce, bounce back and forth. One day they're passing, the next day they failed. One day they're passing, then they pass another day, and then they fail. Same skill. Those are kids that you have to constantly keep your eyes on. Now, I hope that this hasn't blown your mind, because I know it's a lot to take in, especially if you're new to the profession, especially if, you're trying to find a way to get those kids over. I'm going to be honest with you. I had been teaching 17 years before I had my first special ed kid pass a standardized test. So that should tell you. My kids, for the most part, did well, but it wasn't until year 17 that I had my first special education student pass a test. And I'm going to tell you when that happened. It happened at a school that was slated to be taken over by the state. It had been in corrective action for 5 years. So I'm telling you it can, but you have to focus on the meat of what needs to be done and not so much fluff. Sorry. All right, so this last one is a tip that I give to my students. So I'm going to use the New York assessment because, contrary to what you believe, the tests are the same. Texas tests look like New York's test. New York's test looks like California's test. They are all the same. I'm telling you. When I pulled up New York's test, same thing. I'm going to say this. A lot of the states were against Common Core. They're still using the same stuff. Texas passed the law. It was so political. Oh, we're not going to use Common Core. You're using it anyway. Eureka Math is Common Core. That's all it is. They just slapped the state of Texas on it. So that's my little soapbox. I'm going to get off of that. So let me go ahead and share my screen. All right, so the distractor. When I teach my students, I teach them about the distractor. So the distractor is kind of like the, if you ever go to the rodeo, the clowns come out to distract the bull. That's the distractor. And I show that video to my students when we have test prep, especially for young kids, because what it's going to do is it takes your attention away from the correct answer. So let me go back. So in this problem, it says, what factor makes the equation true? First of all, this is an easy problem for an adult, but for a third grader, the word factor, if they don't know what that means, hopefully this question mark will tell them the number being multiplied by 8 makes this true. Now, the distractor is the number that is close, the answer choice that is closest to the correct answer. So when I think about this, and 8 times 5 is 40, 8 times 6 is 48, and so on and so forth. I know that this is 9, but there are mistakes that the children are going to make. Now, I believe that they'll get, this one is not going to be the distractor because a lot of the kids already know the doubles. The doubles, 8 times 8 is 64. They will mark that out. Now, here's where the other problem comes in. The kids struggle with 6, 7, 8, and 9. Now, this is a hard problem for them because they're going to mess up on this 8. This 7. Because the 7, they're going to have to, depending on whether or not they know their facts, or they have to create an array or some type of other strategy to solve this problem. Now notice, they didn't put 5 on here. 5 is easy. When we're talking about standardized tests, we're talking about especially for multiplication, they're going to test them in those quadrant 6, 7, 8, 9. That's what you're going to see on the test. And if you think I'm not telling the truth, you can check your test and go through all the release tests and see which quadrants they actually test. Because in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, the goal is the curriculum or your standards expect the kids to know their facts or to become proficient with those facts. So if you're focusing on, the kids, do they know 2, 3, 4, and 5? You're in the wrong quadrant. It should be 6, 7, 8, and 9. And strategy should be used to get those answers. Like 8 times 5 is 40. And 40 is a friendly number. So it would help if the kids knew a strategy starting from those easy ones or multiples of 5 and 10 if you're teaching them that way. So a distractor is, here's another one. Let me go back to my screen share. So this is fractions. It says point R is shown on the number line below. So what this is it talks about equivalent fractions, and I swear I've seen this on a Texas test, but hey, who am I? These are all equivalent fractions. So 2/4 should be 1/2. This should be 3/4. This should be, they're not in simplest form, which is a problem. But if your students know that this is a fraction that is close to 1, so we have 1, and you have taught them how to count tick marks on a number line, a lot of the kids, this is a problem. They start with 1 here. If you have taught your children 0 is the first number. This has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lines. Some kids will say 9. I'm surprised it's not here. But this is 0 8s, 1 8, 2 8s, 3 8s, 4 8s. 4 8s is the same as 1/2. So this is 1/2, this is 1/2. So it's a lot of different things that go in here. So we know that point R is greater than 1/2. So it's not this one, which is easy. If you taught your students, when your numerator is half your denominator, it's a half. So that's the easy one. This one would be 1/2 too, so we know it's not B. So those are your 2 easy ones. So if we look at this, we know that A and D are left, and one of these is the distractor. One of them is the distractor. So you have to teach your kids and there's really process of elimination, but in more detail where they understand, hey, it's 2 that are not going to make sense right off. But then we have 1/4 and 1/4 and 2 8s, which is going to throw the kids off because a lot of the kids that 8, some of them get confused with numerator and denominator. So that's my little lesson for that. So hopefully you feel a little bit more prepared as you go back into your classroom with something that you didn't know before. So hopefully I gave you some tips so your kids will think you're more awesome than what you are. And that's just a tip that I know that works, and it helps the kids think through the process instead of just throwing them, especially if you have kids that struggle with reading. Those that teaching them those distractors are important. So the three mistakes that teachers make are taking kids off their normal routine. Don't do that. The second one is not creating a calendar or a roadmap, focusing on what needs to be reviewed in a maintenance skill or a reteach skill in a mini lesson. And the last one is teaching your students about distractors. That is important, especially for first-time test takers. So if you need more support, I am hosting a workshop on Saturday, April 6th from 3 to 5 p.m. The name of this workshop is on the screen. From Stress to Success, Transformative Test Prep for Math Educators. In this workshop, I'm going to go more in depth with these type of test taking strategies that you can take that are easy for you to actually implement in your classroom. Nothing that takes a whole bunch of, oh, you have to do this and this is cute. No, it's going to be that meat that's going to move the needle. And if you are one of the first 20 people to sign up, you will receive my no test prep product where it has the calendars. It has the small group intervention, actually the disaggregating data graphic that you saw is a part of this, and it has a daily mastery check where you can take that. Check off your skills. I'm getting tongue-tied. Reteaching plan. You have a progress monitoring sheet. All of these things if you sign up today. The link is in. Let me go ahead. If you're on, let me see. If you're on YouTube, it's pinned to the actual chat. And I'm going to drop it in the chat again for those of you all who may be interested in learning more about how to get your kids ready for test prep. And here's the link. I just popped that in there. So if you're interested in participating in that workshop and that product is something that you need, one thing about digital products is that they last a lifetime. So if you're interested in that, definitely click the link and find out what it entails. I will be going into more detail. You'll get to ask questions, get your questions answered by me. It is 2 hours. We will take breaks, but I really want to make sure that you all are prepared. I know some teachers, their evaluations are on the line. So if you are interested, definitely click on that link. If you're new to math, if you're new to a tested subject and you came from reading, we'll be looking at some sample items, breaking them down from different grade levels. If you're not familiar with me, I have taught elementary, middle, and high school. So definitely we'll be looking at those different grade level bands and the vertical alignment and things, giving you tips, things that you should be focusing on moving forward. So I hope that this was helpful. Thank you for tuning in with me live. And if you have any questions, pop them in the comment section. If you're watching this on the replay, you can also do the same, and I will definitely respond at my earliest convenience. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you all in my next live stream. Bye-bye.